that specific kind of heartbreak every dog owner has felt?
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's the living room champion syndrome. You spend weeks, maybe, training a behavior, let's say a place command or a really solid stay. And inside the house, it is flawless.
Yeah.
Your dog is a genius. They have like a PhD in obedience.
Right. The cookies are flowing, the tail is wagging, it feels perfect. You feel like you finally, cracked the code.
Exactly. But then you open the front door, you step onto the sidewalk, and suddenly that PhD just evaporates. The dog is pulling, checking out, ignoring you, and you're just standing there thinking, I know you know this. Why are you choosing to be difficult?
It's the classic regression gap. And honestly, it's one of the most frustrating things in dog training because it feels personal.
It does.
It feels like the dog is blowing you off or that you're just a bad trainer.
Well, today we're going to fix that. Or rather, we're going to look at a set of sources that suggest we've been diagnosing the problem completely wrong. We are doing a deep dive into the concept of spine and breath, specifically focusing on online membership program Coaching Canine Companions.
Which is created by Lori J. Harris, based out of Rhode Island. And for anyone who follows her work, she approaches this from a very different angle than standard obedience.
This is some heavy-hitting stuff. We're looking at documents like the breath orientation map and the Tender Touch mini manual. These aren't just tip sheets.
No, not at all. They're deep psychological and physiological dives.
They really are. And our mission today is to unpack a really bold claim from these sources. That the reason our training falls apart outside isn't a failure of instruction.
Right.
It's a missing limb in the system. We've been building a chair with 3 legs and wondering why it tips over when the wind blows.
That's a great way to put it. And that distinction creating change versus holding change, that's everything.
That's where we're going to live for this deep dive. We need to figure out what this breath limb is, why our arrival at the front door is sabotaging our walks before they even start, and how to use touch in a way that actually communicates safety instead of pressure.
And just to set the stage for you, this isn't about obedience drills. This is about nervous system regulation. It shifts the whole question from, what do I tell my dog to do? To who am I being right now?
It's just a much harder question to answer. But let's start with the big picture. The source material introduces this dichotomy, the spine limb and the breath limb. I love a good metaphor, but let's ground this. What are we actually talking about when we say spine?
So think of the spine limb as, the structure of training. The source defines this as how learning becomes available.
Okay.
This is the foundation. It steadies the ground. It's where you find your mechanics, your timing, your clear criteria, your reward placement, all that good stuff.
Okay, so the spine is the technical part. It's the syllabus. It's the sturdy backbone that holds the behavior up. If I'm teaching a sit, the spine is knowing how to lure it, when to mark it, and when to pay it.
Exactly. And you need a spine. You absolutely can't train without structure. But here's the catch, and this is the core insight of week 1. You can have a perfect spine.
Impeccable mechanics, great timing.
And the training still collapses under stress. That's where the breath limb comes in. The breath limb represents how learning remains available.
Remains available. That's the key phrase for me, because in that scenario where the dog forgets everything outside, learning has effectively become unavailable to them, right?
That's it.
It's not that they became stupid, it's that the file is corrupted.
Precisely. The text puts it beautifully. Learning does not end when behavior changes. It ends when the nervous system can keep what it learned through stress, through movement, through real life.
Wow.
So if you don't have the breath limb, your system is just incomplete. The dog loses access to the skill, not because they forgot, but because their nervous system got overwhelmed.
It's a systems completion issue. I like that because it takes the blame off the dog.
It does.
It's not stubbornness. It's a system failure. Now, the material breaks this breath limb down further into 2 modes, passive breath and active breath. I want to be clear here because usually when people hear breath or calm work, they visualize a dog just sleeping on a mat for 3 hours.
Right, and that's valuable, but that's only half the picture. That would be passive breath.
Okay.
Passive breath is regulation without demand. It happens in stillness, in recovery. It's where the effort, leaves the room and memory consolidates. It is crucial for the dog to process what they've learned. It's the recharge.
But we can't just live on the mat. I mean, eventually we have to cross the street when a delivery truck goes by, and that's where I think a lot of calm training fails. We get them calm in the living room, but we don't know how to transport that calm.
Exactly. That's where active breath comes in, and this is where most people really struggle. Active breath is regulation in motion.
In motion.
It lives where life is happening on walks, at thresholds, when a squirrel runs by. It's about keeping the shared field between human and dog coherent while decisions are actually unfolding.
The text describes it as preventing the slide into survival mode. That really clicked for me. It's not about being soft or permissive. It's about maintaining a state where the dog can actually hear you.
It's functional stability. Think of it this way. Passive breath is recharging the battery at home. Active breath is making sure the battery doesn't drain to zero the second you hit the pavement.
Right.
Without active breath, you're just managing chaos. With it, you're maintaining a communication line.
Okay, so if week one of Lori J. Harris's program is about establishing this breath limb, we have to talk about where it starts. And the sources are, well, brutally honest here, it doesn't start with the dog.
Nope. It starts with us.
Specifically, this concept of better me, better you, and pillar reduc, where calm is chosen.
This creates a really challenging mirror for us to look into, doesn't it?
Ah,
The field guide to Pillar I describes a specific scenario that I think every listener will recognize immediately. It calls it the arrival, or maybe the failure to arrive.
Oh, this scene was cinematic. You're at the door, you reach for the leash, your body turns toward the door handle, and the text says, the mind is already halfway into the walk while the feet are still inside the room.
And that right there is the moment of disconnect. You are arriving in a state of readiness or projection. You're already 30 yards down the street in your head, anticipating traffic, checking your watch.
Worrying about the neighbor's dog.
Exactly. But where is your dog?
The dog is still inside the room. They're smelling the morning air, processing the sound of the keys, maybe stretching. They are right there in the present.
And this creates what the author calls a quiet misalignment. The human has arrived in a doing state, a forward-leaning state. The dog hasn't fully arrived at the task at all. And in that gap, before you even open the door, the walk has arguably already failed.
That is a heavy realization. We always think the problem starts when the dog pulls on the leash at the end of the driveway, but this source argues the problem started when we picked up the leash with that forward-leaning energy.
There's a quote in the guide. Most leash problems are not leash problems, they are doorway problems.
Doorway problems.
If arousal spikes at the door because of that misalignment, everything that happens after that, the pulling, the reactivity, is just the dog trying to recover or survive the situation.
It frames thresholds, doors, gates, getting out of the car as negotiations. To us, a door is just a barrier we walk through to get to the real activity, but to a nervous system, particularly a dog's, it's a massive question. Is it safe out there? How fast is the environment changing?
And if we rush that question, if we just bust through the door with our minds already down the block, the answer the dog gets is, no, it's not safe. We need to hurry.
Yeah.
You are essentially telling the dog to mobilize for a threat that only exists in your head.
So how do we fix this? The guide has this phrase, arrival is a state, not a thought. Which, sounds great on the bumper sticker, but I can't just think myself calm. If I'm late for work, I'm late for work. My cortisol is real.
You're right, you can't just think it. You have to physiologically arrive. The text gives us specific observable signs of mobilization versus arrival.
Okay.
When we are mobilized projecting forward, our shoulders are high, our breath is short and shallow, and our hands are shaping what hasn't happened yet.
Oh, that line, hands shaping what hasn't happened yet, that got me.
No, right?
Like wrapping the leash tight around your hand before the dog has even moved. You're bracing for a pull that hasn't happened.
Exactly. You are physically rehearsing the struggle. Now, contrast that with arrival. In arrival, the breath completes itself. Full inhale, full exhale. The jaw loosens. Hands are empty of intention. Eyes are receiving rather than searching.
Eyes receiving rather than searching.
Yeah.
That's a big shift. Usually we are scanning for threats. Receiving implies just taking in the data.
It's the difference between hunting and observing. So the challenge for you, for the listener here is, the next time you pick up that leash, can you stop?
Just pause.
Can you take 3 breaths and actually arrive in the hallway before you ask your dog to move?
It sounds simple, but I tried this yesterday, and it is incredibly difficult to just stop that momentum. It feels like hitting the brakes on a train.
It does, but it changes everything. because dogs do not read our plans. They don't know you have a meeting at 9 a.m. They read nervous systems. If your nervous system is screaming, hurry, they will mirror that frantic energy.
This leads us right into the bioenergy aspect of the sources. Now, I have to play devil's advocate here. When some people hear bioenergy balancing, they might, roll their eyes and think we're getting into crystals and incense.
And that's fair, but the text is very specific about this not being woo-woo.
Right.
Laurie J. Harris is clear that in this context, energy is simply the living organization of the nervous system. We are talking about breath rate, muscle tension, posture, movement speed, and timing. It's biological, not magical.
Yeah.
Dogs are predators. They are wired to read these biological signals to survive.
So when we talk about energy, we're talking about tangible, measurable things. And a huge part of this is how we perceive the dog. The sources make a big distinction between watching and listening. I thought those were just metaphors, but there's a technical difference here.
It's critical. We are trained to watch, which is visual, and we look for behaviors. Is he sitting? Is his tail wagging? Is his ear flicking? But visual watching can often be, well, judgmental or analytical. We start narrating what we see.
The commentary, he's being stubborn. That looks like anxiety. He's ignoring me. We turn into sportscasters of our own failure.
Exactly. And the moment that internal commentary states, you stop listening. You are narrating a story, usually a negative one, instead of receiving information. Somatic listening is different. It's feeling the rhythm of the dog, feeling the tension on the leash, sensing their weight shift. It's participating in the field, not just observing it.
There's a technique mentioned called the silent scan. I tried this after reading the notes, and it's harder than it sounds because you have to shut up your internal monologue.
It requires us to stop being useful.
Yeah.
We love to be useful to fix things.
Yeah.
The instruction here is stop movement one step sooner than you think you need to. Soften your eyes, go to peripheral vision, and stay for 3 full breaths before asking for anything. You aren't fixing the dog. You aren't cueing the dog. You are just letting the information land.
And the enemy of this listening is urgency.
Urgency is the absolute enemy of the breath limb. The text says, urgency, even kind, urgency feels like a demand to a dog. If you rush the entry, the dog has to defend against your energy before training even starts.
That is a profound shift. We usually think urgency is just hurrying or maybe being efficient, but to a dog, it feels like pressure. It feels like, I need something from you right now.
And if a nervous system feels demanded upon, it cannot settle. It braces. It prepares for conflict.
Let's transition to the tender touch manuals, because this is where that listening becomes physical contact. And again, big disclaimer here. This is not massage. We aren't trying to work out a knot in the dog's shoulder. This is nervous system dialogue.
Right. And the most important concept here, if you take one thing away from the touch section, is the difference between reaching and meeting.
This visualization helped me so much. Okay, listeners, I want you to imagine you are sitting on the couch and you are about to pet your dog.
If you reach, the movement comes from your mind. It is forward moving. It says, I decided it's time to touch you. Even if it's gentle, even if you love the dog, it is destabilizing because it's a unilateral decision. It's an intrusion into their space.
It's like someone walking up and hugging you without saying hello first. It might be nice, but it's startling. It puts you on the defense.
Exactly. Now compare that to meeting. Meeting comes from the body. It is receptive. It says, I am responding to your invitation.
Oh.
You put your hand near them. You wait for the dog to soften, to shift weight, to lean in slightly, and then you make contact. You are answering a question, not starting a conversation.
So touch never leads, it answers.
That's the golden rule. Touch answers. And this creates the other side of that coin, withdrawal. We often think if we pull our hand away from a dog, we're rejecting them. We feel bad. But in this system, if the dog tightens or freezes or leans away and you withdraw your hand cleanly,
You aren't giving up.
no, you're communicating. You are saying, I am listening. I heard you say no, so I stopped. And that clean withdrawal is a massive safety signal to a dog.
Wow.
It tells them, oh, I have agency here. If I say no, you listen. That builds trust faster than any treat.
It seems so counterintuitive, right? That pulling away connects you more, but it makes total sense. If I know you'll stop when I'm uncomfortable, I'm much more likely to let you get close.
Precisely. It turns touch into a dialogue rather than a procedure. You aren't doing touch to the dog. You are doing it with the dog.
Now, we have to mention the safety warnings in the source material. This isn't for every moment, right? We don't want people trying this at the wrong time.
Absolutely not. The expert note in the manual is very clear. This work is not for dogs in active panic, acute pain, or total shutdown. If stillness increases distress, stillness is not the medicine.
So if my dog is freaking out at a German Shepherd across the street, I shouldn't try to do tender touch.
No. In those moments, you go back to structure, movement, or professional management. You don't try to energy balance a dog that's having a panic attack.
Got it.
This is for when the nervous system is capable of some quiet, not for crisis management.
Right. It complements structure. It doesn't replace common sense.
Correct. And for anyone diving into Laurie J. Harris's work, that balance is key. It's not about abandoning structure. It's about infusing structure with breath.
So we've covered the missing limb, that breast that holds the training together. We've talked about the art of arrival and the problem with the doorway. We've distinguished between watching and listening and this concept of meeting versus reaching. It is a lot, but it all circles back to this idea of why we are doing it.
It circles back to sustainability. The text has this beautiful line about burnout. Burnout begins to lift, not because anyone is doing less, but because the system is finally doing its share of the work.
That's the dream, isn't it? To stop feeling like we are dragging our dogs through life, micromanaging every interaction, staring at them to make sure they don't mess up.
It's the shift from being a technician, someone who fixes behavior, tweaks the mechanics, tightens the screws, to being a partner. A partner shares a regulated field.
Yeah.
If you are the technician, you are exhausted because you are the battery for both of you. If you are a partner, the relationship carries the load.
And that is why this episode focused on week 1. Because before you teach sit, or heel, or place, you have to answer that silent question the dog is asking every time you pick up the leash.
Is learning available right now?
That's it. If the answer is no, no amount of cookie placement is going to fix it.
And usually the answer is no, because we haven't arrived yet. We haven't established the breath limb. We are trying to write software on a computer that isn't plugged in.
So here's the thought I want to leave you with, listener. We talked about arrival a lot. The next time you are heading out the door, or maybe just walking into the room where your dog is, catch yourself. Do a systems check. Are your shoulders up by your ears? Is your mind already on the next task?
Can you take those 3 seconds? Not to do something, but to just land. To let your breath finish. To let your hands empty of intention.
Because if you can do that, if you can truly arrive, you might find that your dog suddenly has a lot less to defend against. And that is where the real training begins. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
It's always a pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.